Khalid Abdulla, CEO of Sekunjalo Investments. It's a big title with a big company now.
Yeah, no, Tony, it is, but it's also an exciting time. I think, we've come through quite a bit within Sekunjalo, and I love it. I mean, I think it is a big job, but I'm up for the challenge. Yeah.
When we talk about big, let's look at Sekunjalo in totem. I mean, Sekunjalo is probably one of the biggest black empowerment companies listed on the stock exchange at the moment.
Yeah, no, we are. I think about 15 years ago when the first BE wave started, within 5 years there were 40 black businesses listed on the JSE. Currently it's down to 3 or 4. So yeah, I think we put ourselves in that team.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think there's been this massive attritional failure?
I think, Tony, it's a couple of variables, but the biggest factor I think at the time was how the BE deals were structured and the value that was added by some of them. And to some extent, maybe the expertise on deal structuring. A lot of them were structured in a way with SPVs based on the share price and other, not necessarily value add. Hence, we took the role that we wanted to be involved in our business and assist with turning business around and adding serious value, hands-on management approach.
Hasn't that put a large amount of social responsibility on you, as well as being a financial responsibility and a creative responsibility?
Correct. I think our social responsibility took forefront over the last 10 years, I think. And it's because of that we built a sustainable business. And we almost read our financials upside down, where we valued more, not the income statement balance sheet, but our value added statement and see how we create employment and how we created communities. So because of that, we built a sustainable business, not just about profits, but about the people who surround it and the communities, which in South Africa is a key thing. We're not going to pull the communities with you. You've got absolutely no chance. We start off as a small business, moved to medium, the company's grown, and I think now we're seen as almost a multinational. And I think it's taken time, but you have to crawl before you grow.
I was going to come to that point about small to large now, and let's start at the very humble beginnings of Sekunjalo. How did it all start and why did it start?
Sekunjalo started in the mid-90s, I think, with Dr. Iqbal Survey starting it off with some of the old political politicians or activists, collecting community money, I think 250,000 and seed capital. And he had a vision of growing and adding back to the community. And over time, he's made mistakes, we've grown, we've made mistakes, we've learned. But over and above, I think the value add was much more than the mistakes, and I think that's why we are one of the multinationals. And I mean, it was his vision that started all off.
There was an awful period of an involvement in a gymnasium business that nearly cost Sekunjalo its name and its capital.
Yeah. I think in the early days, again, putting all eggs in one basket, I think was a bit of an issue. But there was a future for that health and club. I think it was badly managed, and the executives that were involved and in the business, they had their own ideas and their own agendas. And unfortunately, that went pear-shaped for the gym. And obviously, as Sekunjalo being one of the big investors, it caused a bit of chaos. However, Sekunjalo survived that. And that was a big learning curve for Sekunjalo, how to deal with things to come. And since then, we've dealt with a whole lot of up and downs, with aplomb. There was always scary moments in business, but it's how you react to them and how you lobby around your executives and how you deal with it and how you stand firm. And as long as you stick to your principles in life and your principles around how to manage your business and how to deal with policies, I think you'll be fine.
Then you moved on. Sekunjalo moved on. It got involved in the fishing industry as Premier Fishing, didn't it?
Yeah. We bought Premier Fishing in, I think it was 2000, with quite a bit of debt in that. But again, we thought we could add the value in as an area that I think dealt quite significantly with communities, the fishing industry, which is one of the poorest areas. And in the community of the fishing, just so you know, every one person you employ, you're creating food for 10 to 20 people, because that's the ratio in that area. We got involved in that because we believed we could make a change, and we're here today being one of the top 3 or 4 big fishing business in the country.
It would appear that Khalid Abdulla, as the CEO, is changing the face of Sekunjalo, and there are more changes to come. And the reason I'm asking that question is if we look back on the history over the last 2 or 3 years, there's been an incredible attachment of Sekunjalo to political entities. Are you trying to move away from that political attachment now?
Look, business and politics is very difficult to separate, and you know, the ethos of Sekunjalo has always been, look, it started off with activists, and I think we had a good vision, a good view of where to go to, but it's trying to mix, because again, politicians are also stakeholders. I mean, in most businesses, if you look at government, they're the biggest spender, so no business can deal without politics, and it's how you build relationships, and hence, as I said earlier on, it's a whole parcel of stakeholders you got to deal with, and politicians and politics is a part of those stakeholders. So yes, maybe we are in some areas of business that deals with politicians and government, but it's as much as any other company, be it the white company or other company that actually deals with these things, or other multinationals. We have to be aware of what the political environment is, what the politicians are thinking, because without that you cannot formulate your business model and your sustainability.
Has it caused you an embarrassment at times to be politically connected?
Not at all, and it's obviously sometimes the perception that's created out there is that, you know, because we understand the politicians, we network with them, it taints you as saying, oh, you only got it because you're a politician. But we have shown Sekunjalo for over the 15 years that if we do win a tender or otherwise, it's not about just winning it, we've delivered on it. And hence we are the #1 hospital system in Africa because we've delivered on it. In the fishing industry, we've delivered on our catches, we've created jobs, we've created employment, we've grown the business as well.
Let's encapsulate what Sekunjalo does, because I think you touched on a point in there. We've been talking about fishing and so on, and now you've just mentioned the medical side of things, but there's more to Sekunjalo than just those two little arms, aren't there?
Yeah, Sekunjalo is quite diversified, but I think there's areas of operational activity and there's areas of strategic or investments. So on our operational activity, we are very strong in our IT business and we're very strong in our fishing business. And I think those two areas, I think we will grow significantly because we've got the expertise, we've got the management, we roll up sleeves. We've also got a bit of healthcare business, we've turned around and it's making profits going forward now. We've also got a biotech business, which is a listing play down the line. It's an industry that the South African market has not got demands around it, and hence we got the approvals to list offshore. We've also got strategic investments, 30% in British Telecom, we've got the Saab, which is 5%, and we've got Pioneer Foods as well. Then we've got this little entertainment business called ESP, which does Cape Town Jazz. It is the #4 jazz event in the world. It creates close to $500 million GDP growth to the Western Cape's economy, and it creates almost $1 billion GDP to the national economy. It also creates 2,700 jobs on an annual basis to the unemployed for at least 3 to 4 months. So it has its place in South Africa, and it's becoming quite an icon.
Let's move now from Sekunjalo to the man himself, Khalid Abdulla. Where did Khalid Abdulla come from and how did he end up in the hot seat?
Khalid Abdulla grew up in a little area called Harfield Village in the Claremont area, walking bare feet around the way, playing soccer whenever he could on the streets and the gravel roads. He finished his schooling at Livingston High School. The Group Areas Act in 1979, 1980 put pressure there to move out of there into Athlone. My first love was to play soccer and sport. I was a provincial soccer player, volleyball player, squash player, and an athlete. I played SA soccer and I played SA volleyball, as short as I am. But I loved sport, and I think I learned a lot of lessons in sport, you know, about team play, about how things gel together, strategy, vision, and that. However, you know, in those days there wasn't money in soccer, which was always going to be my first love. But then my dad said, "You've got to go and study." I went to study part-time through UNISA. I did my BCom degree through UNISA. I did my honours through UNISA. I did my GDA at UCT. I then wrote my board exams. And then a couple of years after practicing my trade in business, I got a bit bored and I did my MBA at UCT in 2008, 2009. So I've got quite a bit of academics behind me. I still do a lot of mentoring at UCT, the GSB, and I still do some lecturing on an ad hoc basis for the MBA students. Yeah.
How did you get to be in the hot seat?
You know, I joined Sekunjalo in 1997, almost from the start.
What were you when you joined?
When I joined, I already had my BCom and honours degree, and I was a director of BDO Spencer Stewart in accounting practice, which I loved, and I did some consulting to Sekunjalo. And I did consulting to Sekunjalo, as things happened, the business started growing. I was then asked to come aboard to head up one or two of the tenders that was awarded. I then built up and headed up some parts of the health IT business. From there, I became the managing director of the health IT business. I then headed up the Sekunjalo capital part, and I was made the offer to take over as CFO in the group in 2007. I was the CFO for 3 to 4 years, learning my trade, and then from there, I was given the opportunity to become the CEO. Under the leadership of Iqbal Sure, who was the executive chairman. Dr. Sure is still the major shareholder, so there's still some form of interaction on an ad hoc basis.
What is the vision and what is the growth? I'm going to try and tease out of you some of your ideas, of course.
You know, I think that I've got a vision 2020, which is kind of a 5-year plan. I think it's just apt that it's 2020. So I believe that we can double the business size within 5 years from an asset play point of view as well as a growth point of view. So we will be going on an acquisition trail shortly. Organically, we've shown that we're growing on a regular, steady basis between 5 and 10%. But I think acquisition as a listed company and adding value is important for our shareholders. Yeah.
This must be quite a strain with all these aspirations you've got and the time you spend with companies and the responsibility. How do you handle your family life?
Yeah, look, it is a strain, you know, being a CEO of a multinational or growth company. But however, I do find time on the weekend to spend time with them. I mean, I've got great support. My kids are absolutely wonderful. They also excelling in their own way with sports and academics themselves. So it's low management on that side, but I do spend nice quality time with them and my wife as well. So I think we do find lots of time to spend, yeah. And holidays obviously become important.